All right. So what area do you need to work on the most? Let's get some volunteers and we'll help you work on that area.
I'll jump in.
All right, Howard.
For me, it's traffic and trying to get traffic, whether it's to my site or to the posts that I'm putting up on LinkedIn and or Facebook. We had a very good conversation with Dan and Emma, where we're just talking about the types of content being put onto LinkedIn. I know I found challenging. I've used pods before and I've stopped using pods. I've gotten told that they're starting to try to search for people that are using pods, but the type of activity that I'm putting on, definitely there was a big difference between the amount of acknowledgement I had when I was running it with a pod and when I was just running it without the pod, and a huge decline in viewing an activity that didn't lead anywhere.
Okay, so I appreciate you volunteering and bringing that up. We can talk about for everybody else what what our social media engagement pod is, but tell everybody which business we're talking about.
I'm a business coach.
Okay, so for educational purposes, what type of business owners do you want to coach?
Primarily home improvements, but it varies out from there. I really have lots of different types of small business owners, $300,000 to $5 million revenue a year.
Okay, so if you were talking about, have you done any research? Do we know if the home improvement contractors are on LinkedIn?
Small percentage.
Are they, because at 300,000 to let's say $1 million, I mean, that might be a guy with a couple employees and a couple trucks. I'm not a home improvement contractor expert, but I'm wondering if he's not really active on LinkedIn on a regular basis. He has a presence there just to be on there, but he's not business to business. So he's probably not communicating on LinkedIn all the time to see your messages, would be my guess.
That would be true.
Okay. So the first thing we want to do, and this applies to everybody, is we want to identify who's the target market. So in this case, Howard's got, for this example, home improvement contractors doing 300,000 to 5 million, which is a big range. For the purposes of this, I'd want it to be narrowed down more, because the 300,000 is probably a solo practitioner. That's probably one guy, one truck, and maybe some subcontractors. Whereas the guy at 5 million might have a dozen, 2 dozen trucks, might have 50 employees, might have a quote unquote scalable business. So number one, we want to specifically identify our target market. Just like when George was talking, the $150 million advisor has a different mindset, different pain points than a $10 million advisor. And the work you're going to do to get the higher profile client is the same that you're going to do to get the lower profile client, and your life will be easier. So I'd want to narrow down our target market, and then we want to figure out what media they are using to communicate. You want to reach them where they are. So if you were going after $300,000 home improvement contractors, you could have the best LinkedIn content every single day for the home improvement industry ever. But if that guy's not on LinkedIn, it's not going to do you any good. So do you have a wish list of, hey, these are the top 50 contractors in my area that I would love to represent?
Yes.
Awesome. So that's like a dream 50 or a dream 100 list. I love that you have that. What contact information, what data points are on that list?
Almost full of email addresses and phone numbers. Some emails not there, but
okay.
and a mix between personal cells and business numbers.
Okay. Do we also have a mailing address?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got email. We might have phone number. We have email for some, phone numbers for some, snail mail for hopefully all of them, or we could get it. How often, and it's okay if the answer is I haven't started yet. How often are you touching that list, and how are you touching it?
It'd be another category of I have not started yet. It was a January project.
Oh, well, congratulations. Awesome. All right. So I would state that since you have multiple forms of media contact, I'd use them all. I would start with an email drip because it is free. I would start email dripping on them at least once a week. And then as the budget, depending on if there's 100 contractors on that list, for that small list, I'd have direct mail. I mean, for the price of a postage stamp, 50 something cents, you could send a letter. If there's 100 of them, $50. I mean, you could send them an email every week and 2 letters a month and then spend $100. How much are you planning on charging said contractors? Do you have any idea in terms of what the service offering is going to be?
It would be $19.97 a month,
19 is in $2,000.
$2,000.
Okay, so this is another important lesson for everybody. When people ask me the question, what's your marketing budget? Or when they say, what should my marketing budget be? I say, you shouldn't have one. It shouldn't be 10% of your revenue. It shouldn't be some number you read in a textbook. It should be technically your marketing budget is infinite, because if Howard's going to get paid 24 grand a year, how much are you willing to pay to get a $24,000 a year payday?
Is that rhetorical? Is that?
No, I'm asking. It doesn't have to be the right answer because there isn't one, but just give me a number.
$200, $500 per person.
Okay.
$1,000.
Okay. So that's normal. Your answer is normal. And I'm going to gently suggest that you might think a little bit differently, because if our goal is to be the service or product provider that can afford to pay the most to acquire a customer. Because if I can pay more than you, I will win. So if Howard is a business coach coaching home improvement contractors at 24 grand a year, and he's willing to spend $1,000 to get a $24,000 payday, that's a 24 to 1 return on his investment. That's every dollar he gives me, I give him 24 back. He will want to make that trade a lot. Now, if Courtney decides to be a home improvement contractor or coach, and Courtney says it's worth 24 grand in revenue, I'll pay 12. I'll have 50. I'll still double my money. And Howard is creating his whole marketing plan for the year on spending $1,000, and Courtney's willing to spend $12,000. Who's going to win? All things being equal, yeah, Courtney's waving his hand. Courtney should win because he can afford to do more. Howard might be sending an email every week and a letter once a month, because that's about $1,000 over a year total. But if Courtney's willing to spend $1,000 a month, Courtney could send a shock and awe box. Courtney could send a DVD player in the mail. Courtney could send a giant direct mail campaign. He could sponsor lunches in his area. He could take out radio ads on the network they listen to. He could take out TV ads on the show they watch. He could run audio ads on the podcast they might listen to. He's got a whole lot more weapons at his disposal because his marketing budget is bigger. So I hear from business owners all the time, how can I reduce my cost to acquire a customer? How can I get customers cheaper? And I say, that's the wrong question to be asking. The answer should be, how can I re-engineer my business to be able to afford to pay more? Because if Courtney's willing to pay 12 and Howard's willing to pay 1, Courtney can buy all of the home improvement contractor traffic and put Howard out of business. Because Howard will never get his message heard, because he'll be sending 1 letter a month and Courtney will send one every other day. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
All right. So you talked about a LinkedIn engagement pod is where there is a group of people who join a group of people who have joined together, and they've all decided that whenever anybody in the group posts on LinkedIn, they're all going to go like and comment on it. The goal being, I am also in a LinkedIn engagement pod, and I will show you but don't tell anybody. I will show you one I just did the other day. Give me 2 seconds to pull it up. But the premise is, if we all go comment, then it will trick LinkedIn's algorithm into showing us that all of that activity is happening, and then LinkedIn will show it to more people. So I literally did that for this event. That's how some of you got here. Here was my post about the event. And then if you look, we had 23 comments from my engagement pod. However, you will notice that not everybody actually read the post. So I posted about an event and it said, can I attend the launch? When can I buy this? I was really waiting for this. I do not know who Arkham Malik is. I guarantee you he or she didn't read the post. Launching soon. It's not a launch and there wasn't anything to buy. We're not charging you. So I think would love to be notified. Of course, I'm interested. Ordered. Can't wait to buy it. What did you order? Ernest didn't register to come to the event. So that is the downside of a LinkedIn engagement pod, is not all of the comments are congruent. Sometimes people are just in the pod and they just go hit copy and paste a whole bunch of times as their answer for okay to take my money, added it to my shopping cart. There's nothing to buy. I'm guaranteeing you that if I go look at Vishal, that's what his answer has been on every single post. So did it get me 23 comments? Yes. Did it get me more views, 199 views than before I had it, the 23 comments? Yes. However, you see 183 people registered and they're not 183 people here. So there are people who signed up because of the pod, but never actually had any intention of showing up. So the plus to a pod is it gets you a lot more comments and tractions on your content. The downside, and it looks good for vanity metrics, and theoretically LinkedIn or Facebook, there's a Facebook engagement pods, your content will get shown more. But just like Howard, I haven't necessarily figured out how to get those people to immediately translate into revenue. So if I were trying to grow my LinkedIn engagement as part of my marketing strategy, I would make a list of those 100 home improvement contractors and I would find them on LinkedIn and I would tag them in my posts so they see it. Because you don't care if 10,000 consumers on LinkedIn see your content, hypothetically. For the purposes of this exercise, you care if those 100 home improvement contractors that you want to hire you see it. So you could manufacture your own non-pod pod by tagging the people you want to see it in an attempt to get them to see it. And then you could message them and say, hey, I tagged you in a post. Did you see it? The other way to increase your engagement with the right people is LinkedIn is also an advertising platform. So you can run engagement ads on LinkedIn and hyper target exactly the people you want. And you can pay LinkedIn to put it in their newsfeed. We can do I think we're going to do a whole session on LinkedIn next month. So we want to identify our target market as precisely as we possibly can. We want to then get our content in front of them, whether we're paying for it, whether we're sending it in the mail, whether it's cold email outreach, we've got to get them to see it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Howard. Give everybody give Howard a hand. For volunteering, I can talk. All right, let's keep going.